Hi there! I have had some questions, and I always get them in my classes too, of what type of surface is the best for watercolor? What kind of paper do I use? What do I recommend? So I wanted to share with you some different options, okay? Starting with super simple, I have computer paper, okay? This is good for little kids. A lot of times I will draw with crayon and then let them paint with watercolor. I do not recommend this for anybody older than a little kid just because it bends or wrinkles really easily, and the watercolor either can seep through or it doesn't stay in the spot very well. So this is just regular computer paper. It's fun just for little ones to practice. I used to do this with my kids when they were about 3 to just let them play. The next step up from that is to get a watercolor pad. I buy these just at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Walmart. There's a bunch of different brands. These are 2 that I use often. I use this one a lot for my classes that I teach in middle school and elementary school. The thing to look at when you buy pads like this is the weight of the paper. Right here you can see it's 140 pounds. I do prefer this to the 90-pound paper for all levels of watercolor. That just means the paper will be thicker and it will hold the paint better. It won't wrinkle as easily. So I would definitely at least look for the 140-pound when you're looking for a pad. This makes, Canvas makes some really nice ones for practicing watercolor. Master's Touch is another one that I use just when I'm playing around, doodling, practicing my watercolor, or doing maybe little like cards or something like that. So I recommend these for beginning watercolor, just playing around, not something that I use when I'm doing something that maybe a commission that someone is paying me for. Then I go a little fancier. Some other options for pads I have, there's a lot of different brands. So I mean, you can try a bunch of different ones. I just got this one at an art store. It's another one that has worked really well for me. But the ones that I keep continuing to go back to and that a lot of people in some of my art groups just constantly recommend are the Arches brand papers. The one here is a cold press paper, which means it's a little bit more rough with the texture, and this is the one that I use most often for all of my commission work, my professional work with watercolor. The hot press paper, which comes in this pink pad, is what I use for my illustration work. Hot press paper is smoother, so it works well like if you need it for print, or a lot of times people prefer it for portraits or things like that where you don't want to see much texture. But the cold press, in my opinion, is easier to work with, and the texture is kind of nice for a lot of different things when we use watercolor. Again, the pad on the paper says that it is 140 pounds. You can get the paper in 300-pound paper, which is even thicker, and that's really nice. It's just more expensive, so I usually don't pay the extra. I just get the 140 pounds. I even get this paper in a huge roll that's 10 feet of paper and have had a really good experience using that as well. The other thing, if you want to try doing watercolor on different surfaces, another thing I have tried is a board that you can get at Hobby Lobby. It does have to say watercolor on it. They have these for acrylic painting and oil painting too, but then the watercolor doesn't work as well, so it has to say watercolor canvas panel. Again, this is by Master Touch. I've only found these at Hobby Lobby and have really enjoyed working with these boards. The nice thing about doing watercolor on a board is that you don't have to frame it behind glass always. You can get away with painting something. I have an example here. This is one of my portraits that I did. So I painted this on the watercolor board. You can see right here it's a watercolor canvas panel. And instead of framing it and putting it behind glass, I could just frame it and leave it as is. but I do spray it with an acrylic or a UV protective spray. And then I use what's called Dorland's Wax Medium, and I rub it on, and that gives it like a protective coat so that it can stand up better to the sunlight and just to the particles in the air. And it's actually keeps it protective enough that I can just wipe it off if it gets dusty or whatever. So I have a lot of boards that I've used like this, and again, those are at Hobby Lobby. Or a lot of artists have enjoyed using what's called an Aqua Board, and Aqua Boards are something that you can only find online for the most part. I have not yet found them in any of the craft stores. Maybe if you had like a Blix or a Utrecht Art Supplies, you could find one there. But these are really nice. It's called Aqua Board, and they just have a different feeling too. So you may have to kind of experiment to see which one you like. The nice thing about Aqua Boards is this is a thin one, you can see, but they do have some that are thicker, so it looks kind of like a canvas would if you would hang it on the wall. And those, again, you don't have to frame necessarily. You can do the spray and the wax medium on these, but these are quite a bit more expensive. So if I were going to just try them out, I would try the canvas panels from Hobby Lobby or just stick with the paper. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and there's more out there. There are other different ways that you can get watercolor on different surfaces. These are just the ones that I've used and that I've enjoyed trying with. So if you're playing around, I recommend trying some of maybe the cheaper watercolor papers. If you want to get fancier, I would try the Arches. The paper is the thing. If you're going to spend money on supplies, this makes the most difference. When I started out like painting every day and really trying to get better with my technique and my quality of work, one day I finally said, okay, let me try using a better quality paper and actually spending the money, and wow, my level went up almost instantly just going with the better quality paper. I mean, overnight it was a huge difference. Where the brushes and the paint, yeah, those make a little bit of a difference, I guess, but the paper is really what made my work improve drastically, like overnight. So if you want to try it out, let me know what you think, and feel free to give me any other questions that you have regarding paper that you would use for watercolor painting. All right, take care and happy painting.